Thank you. So, like I said, let your goal be. Now, the next thing is this. These are not my files. I wish I had that file. I wish I had them. I can't find it. But let's continue. I wanted to show you a few things. So maybe we're showing you those things. Now, as a backend developer, like I said, you are the brain. The brain means you don't just write the code. No, you have not missed a lot. Just join the class. Join. Okay, I don't know if he's in the class. Yinka, if you join the class, you've not missed much. Join our class and I should be able to follow us. So, like I said, as a backend developer, you don't just write the code. You think about the code that you are writing. You think about it. You think about it. You think about it. And you think let's just say you are the person thinking for the project. The project cannot think for itself. The front-end developer is thinking about only the front end. You are thinking about the entire project, whether it will work or it will not work. When users are using a software, they don't care how it looks like. When it's not working, that is when you know that there's a problem. Users don't really look much at the UI. It's like, yeah, they may say it's fine. That's what they will tell you. Oh, it's fine. It's like this. But if the website takes time to do one thing, that's the problem. If the website, sometimes it will do the job, sometimes it will not do it. That's a problem. If the website will consume plenty data, that's another problem. All of these things are what you, the backend person, will have to deal with. So users only care whether the project is working or is not working. Every other thing is secondary. The main thing is it working or is not working? That's the main thing. Every other thing is secondary. So as a backend developer, put it in mind that you are supposed to build a project that works. No matter how small it is, run the project. Run it to see that it works. Now, at this point, I can look at your code and know whether it will run or not. The only time you are able to know whether a code will run or not without running it is if you have been running the codes before. So for now, you will not know which code will run or will not run. But if you are used to running your codes, from when we started small, we running your, when we started from the beginning, if all the codes you've been writing, you will run them to see the result. You will run all of them. By the time you begin to work on project, you will look at the code. You will know whether it will run or it will not run, because you must have experienced a few errors. You might have seen some successes. You will see all of these things. When you look at it, some errors you experienced, you will see them in the code. Some successes you experienced, you will see them in the code. And that way you will know whether it will work or not. Now, another thing is, some persons we are still submitting Google Drive, Google Document. If we are doing content development, I will understand when you are using Google Document or Google Drive. If we are doing project management, all of those things, then I will understand. But ladies and gentlemen, you are writing codes. It's not. Let me show you something. I'll just open my browser and show you that one reason why I want you to submit with GitHub. It has to be GitHub. We have passed that Google Drive. Now I understand that in Google Classroom you'll be allowed to upload files, but like I said, we're not uploading files anymore. We've passed that level. So if you don't know how to upload with GitHub, please let me know. Let me know. Now let's say I open this project. This is your project. Like this one is, I think this is the last project I worked on. Anything, so but I can't find the folder. Oh, it's not. So I can actually come here and change this .com to dev. Hit enter. and this will open up the project with VS Code immediately, like VS Code on Google GitHub. So it's setting up my editor here. I can code with this thing, whether I've installed it or not. So there's a lot of things I can do with your project, but it has to be on GitHub. It must be on GitHub. Now, another thing is, I want you to be very, very used to GitHub, because there is no backend developer without a GitHub. You must be used to GitHub. Otherwise, I don't know what we're doing. Now, another thing is, the people who might hire you as HR, as a backend developer, what will you show them? Now, I understand that the front-end person might just open up one website and show them the website. But you as a backend developer, will you go and show them the server? You will not show them server. Now, even if it's a free one, they will not want to see it. The only way they will measure you, whether you are good enough, is if they see codes. Once they see codes on your GitHub, bam, they just assume that you know it. Because these HRs, let me tell you the truth, all these HR that will interview you, is only a few of them that understand anything in the back end. The rest does not understand. They don't understand. They don't know it. If they know it, they will not be hiring you. I've had a lot of interviews, and I can tell you that most of the HRs don't know how to code. So just a few that are able to ask you, or I should code something for me, let me see. The rest will just be asking you about, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to obey API? Do you know how to use the database? Do you know? That's what they'll be asking you. So if you don't have codes on GitHub, what will you show them as a proof that you are actually gone through this process? Now, some of you might be lucky that by the end of your project, you might get, this project is actually big. This training is actually big. You might get interviewers coming to pick people from the training. I've had a training where, while we were still rounding up, I got a call to send the names of my students that are good. I sent them. Now I got another call to send the names of all the girls in the class. Now all the girls were hired by a company in Lagos. Not one missing. So projects like this, most times when they are being organized, people are watching. You don't know who is watching. How would they know that you are actually following up? If you are not doing code-related things, be using GitHub. If you don't know how to use GitHub, drop it on the platform. Somebody will attend to it, please. So, like I'm saying, I'm using this time to breathe. Everybody should breathe. There's no rush in building this thing. If you don't know it, you don't know it. And if you know it, you know it. And you can't know it if you don't put in time, energy, and your mind into it. So if you have questions, drop your questions now. If you're a newcomer, a newbie, I don't think I have new messages. Please drop a comment in the new student topic. If you're a new student, please drop a comment in the new student topic. So I know that most of the things I will say now, new students are here to pick it up. Abem, yes, I think you are, what's that, Raymond, right? Yes, Raymond, you are no longer a new student. Emmanuel, you are no longer a new student. I mean, people, are you still a new student? Ishe, we're looking for new students now. I want to believe that Raymond, by now you should see a backend project and you know what the backend project is. And even though you don't really know everything about it, you should see it and understand. Is it only 4 of you? Where are the rest? No other persons. The challenge I will have is anybody who is submitting assignment but doesn't come to class, and they ask me if this person is your student. You are not my student, Submitting assignment doesn't make you my student. The only thing that make you my student is attending class, dropping attendance, and submitting assignments. That's what makes you my student. So I don't know why people will not attend classes, but they will submit assignments. Now, even if you know it, please join classes. Please, that's how I get used to your name. As a matter of fact, I want to know everybody. So what I will do is, I will go first. I will drop my name. Okay, I don't need to drop my name. I just drop I'll drop a comment about I want to be a backend, or let's say I'll drop a comment. Let's code backend. If you are going to code backend together, you also drop a comment following my format. So drop a comment, let's code backend, then drop your state of origin and drop your current state of residence. That's also I get to know who is who. And also, if you have not changed your name on the name on Telegram, Raymond, which week? Is it last week or last, or which week? Is it the last JavaScript assignment or the backend assignment? So in the general, let's code backend. Last week was backend though. It's not this one. Last week was backend. People that join classes late will not come and join now. It's when we've passed. Oh my God. People that join classes, please come and join now. So I will drop my own comment. If you are following us, also drop your comment. I want to know you so that I know who is my student and who is not my student. Now, if they call me on your behalf, I can actually vouch for you and say, okay, yes, this person, I know this person. So drop let's code backend and where the state you are from, the state you reside in, and your favorite emoji. That's all. So let's code backend. I'm dropping it on the general platform. So drop your own on the general platform too. Did I drop on the general platform? Yeah, drop yours on the general platform if you want to. I want to know you. And also, now, if you are dropping that comment, when you make any error, I will call out your error. I will call out your name so that you will know that I don't want people to keep making mistakes. We've passed that error. Okay, that being said, let's code. All right, let's code where you're from, where you reside, and your favorite emoji. Right, thank you, Emmanuel. So let's code backend. Now, for those who are joining us the first time, I want to believe you know how to set up a project. So I will create a new folder and I'll call it BE2. All right. So, and I'll open up this backend with my VS Code. Sorry. Are you serious? So I can't. Trying to. All right. So I have my project folder opened up. Hey, Deborah. I have my project open up. The first thing, the only thing that makes this project a backend project is if your package.json file is set up correctly. Without that, any other code you write, it doesn't make sense at all, because the package.json is the most important file in the whole of this backend project. If you make one error there, the whole project is cancelled. Like it will never run. Like those ones that the persons that had their node, the package.json file looking like this, having something here doesn't mean the project will run. Okay, I didn't save that thing. Having something here doesn't mean the project will run, but having the correct information here will tell you whether the project will run or not. So I will close this. The first thing to do is to set up your package.json file. And the only way you set up your package.json file is if you use your terminal on the same folder and you type npm init --yes. Now this is how to generate package.json file. You don't copy package.json file. You don't copy it. You generate package.json file. So you set up yes, and it will create a package.json file. If you have a package.json file without these informations first, then it means that that package.json file, you copied it. If you don't have name, version, description, and especially main file, then automatically you copy that package.json. There's no two ways about it. But I want to believe there's nobody that will copy again. But fine. So I have my package.json file, and the first file here is index.js. Now, in backend, you don't just know what to do. You should know why you are doing it. Everybody was creating index.js. A few persons created server.js, but here they have another name. Why are you creating server.js when your main file is index.js? The name of the file here is the name of the file you create. So if you want to use server.js, please come back here and change this thing to server. It must match. Without this, the two of them will not match. Now, this is where some persons are, which is why I don't recommend most videos. Now, most online videos, you will be following the videos and do the same exact thing the instructor is doing, but along the line, the instructor will now tell you, I will go a short break and then come back. His own is running, your own is not running. That's because most times they don't actually know why they have errors. They are just there to put up. When I realized that most YouTube are just there to put up comments, they are just to make comments, and then content on YouTube so that they get paid. So they're not really doing it because you want to grab much information or you're grabbing the best information. Their main goal is to have content on YouTube. So, but there are a few ones I would recommend that are very, very good. They are very, very good. But randomly, when you are doing anything on the videos, understand why they are doing it. If they are not telling you why, please leave that video and move on to something else. So I have my package.json file and I'm using server.js, which is why I've created server.js. Now, after creating package.json file, I wish you were writing it step by step. The first step is to generate npm package.json file. That's the first step. The second step is to then install your dependencies. That's the second step. Install dependencies. Now, what dependencies do you need? You can install all, There is no way you will install anything before package.json file. Package.json file is the first thing. Without it, anything you are installing doesn't actually make sense, because it is a package.json file that will just, I need to find a better scenario. The person that will be monitoring everything is the package.json file. The package.json file actually makes the folder a backend folder. Without it, any other thing there doesn't count. It is at the point where anything that comes first before package.json doesn't count. You have to do it again. So if you have installed dependencies, which I'm sure it will not work, if you try to install without package.json, it will not work. But if you have installed it and then you create a package.json file, know that you will still install it again, because the package.json file is the manager. If the manager is not there to take record or take who is coming and who is going out, work has not started. The manager will be the first person to come and start taking records. Okay, this is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third one, and so on and so forth. That's when work has started. So package.json file is the first thing and the most important thing. That's one. And okay, now you can push it to GitHub. Somewhere you can push it to GitHub and share the link, so I will get to see it. I understand. So push it to GitHub and we'll see it. So package.json is the first thing. Then installing dependencies. Now you can install all your dependencies at once. Like if you know what dependencies you will use. For example, we talked about Express and what's it called, .env. You can install the two of them at the same time. How? Clear this. So I can say npm install express space .env like this. So if you do this, it will install the two of them like this. Now, sometimes you might use more than two. You can use 3, 4, 5, 6, and so many cases. You can install all of them at once. But if you want to install them one after the other, when you need them, you install. That's also fine. Install them when you need, you install. Now, if I do this, this is correct. If I go ahead to add this, like this. Now, this is not absolutely correct, but it is allowed. It's allowed like this. Now, the reason is nodemon is actually a dev dependency. A dev dependency being it should only be used while you are developing. Now, but if you install it like this, it is going to be installed as a normal dependencies, but no problem, because you are going to create a start script. Your start script will be Node. So it doesn't really matter whether you install nodemon as dev or as a normal dependency, but you must install it as a dev dependency. But the one I saw from some persons, like I said, I wish I could ask them who teach you. They installed everything as a dev dependencies. Installing everything as a dev dependency means the project will not run on the server, because the server doesn't run dev dependencies. So when you are doing something, you should know why you are doing it. I'm definitely sure that person did not actually install dev dependencies. They copied it. But if you installed it, it's fine. But like I said, you should not install Express as a dev dependency, .env as a dev dependency. No. When you want to install something as a dev dependencies, you know which one you are installing as a dev dependency. The only dev dependency here is nodemon. And we need nodemon to be restarting our server anytime we save our changes. So, but when we deploy to the cloud, like AWS, we don't want AWS to be restarting the server. Imagine somebody wants to log into their bank app. The time they were lucky to log in, and then while they are in the login, the server has restarted. It means the person will be logged out and come back again. So imagine you log in, server restart. You go out and you come back again. You log in again, the server restart. You come just like that. It is wrong. So nodemon is only needed for when you want. I know that npm doesn't. I don't use npm, which I understand why I don't use npm. Some persons went ahead to install yarn, which is good. No, the reason why I use yarn is because I don't use npm. So you installing yarn without knowing why, because I saw some persons install yarn without knowing why you are using yarn. I don't know why. Who teach you that one? I don't know what we are using yarn to do in the project. So why are you installing yarn in your project? And some persons did not, some things they installed, they did not type the name very well. Like I saw so many names that, why not breathe? Breathe. This laptop is not hurting anybody. Breathe. Type whatever you want to type confidently. Be sure that you spelled it correctly, and then you hit enter. Don't rush it. No pressure. So some persons did not spell very well. They went ahead and installed a lot of things I saw. My mouth, I can't say them, but it's fine, like I said. So I've installed my packages. If you come here, you see that I have packages under the dependencies. Express and .env are here. And the next thing is, I might want to set up my scripts. A lot of persons did well in the script, and I believe that's because they copied it. Almost everybody got the script. Even people that copied the package.json, the script was correct. Node will run, no, it's server actually, server.js. So I'm using Node, and I want to believe because everybody got the star script, there's no point teaching the star script anymore. This is a star script that will start the project, and Node will be the one running server.js. And then the dev script, for now we don't have nodemon, so I can't add nodemon here. There's no nodemon. So what I can do is then install nodemon, but as a dev dependency. Every dependency we are using, please note why we are using it. Okay, let's look at your project. Sorry, I will zoom in a little. The first thing I look at is a package.json file, repository, the URL, box, URL, home, URL, and .env. Okay, here, this is the issue here. This will not run online because they are all dev dependencies. So the only thing that is supposed to be here is this nodemon. The express and the .env should be normal dependencies. Normal dependencies. And here you are using Node to run app. Where is the JS that comes with it? I wish you could see me. Sorry, am I disconnected? If you can see my screen, please drop a thumbs up. If you can see my screen, please drop a thumbs up in the question and answer. Drop a thumbs up in the question and answers. Thank you. So we are trying to use his project to understand what I'm explaining. So from this project, I know that it is a little zoomed out. So let me zoom in a little. This is the package.json file. Now, the file you have here is app.js. And that is the name you have here as your main file. But the problem now becomes when you set up your start script, you're not completing the name of the file. The name of the file should be app.js, the way it is here and the way it appears here. So these three names must be the same. So this has to be app.js and app.js. The second thing again is, like I said, this is object for dev dependencies. And you have all your dependencies as dev dependencies. It's not correct. The only dev dependency here is nodemon. These two are normal dependencies. If you deploy this project to server, it will not run because the server doesn't run anything that is under dev dependencies. Dev dependency means development dependencies, the dependencies that run. Now, these other ones for now, they don't really matter and they will not affect anything you're working on. So these are just links. Unless somebody clicks on them, it doesn't do anything. So if you click, that's only when you click on them, that's when it does something. But currently, they don't do much. They don't affect the project. So the most important thing is here, these two are not these two are not dev dependencies, and the name of the app has to be complete the same way it is here. So that's the only error you have here in the package.json file. And I think in your app.js, let me see app.js. In app.js, you are setting .config, you're requiring it. Yeah, this is fine. Some persons do this thing and they invoke it immediately. It's fine. You can actually invoke your express here too. So while you are, sorry, there are so many packages to install, but you don't know them. How will I list them? But currently, for now, I think .env and Express is the only that, and the nodemon are the only ones you will be using. Except it's time to connect to a database, then we'll bring in another one. And then maybe it's time to start building login for users registration, then we'll bring in another one. And then maybe time to build, if we're going to build anything that has to do with chat, people chatting with other persons, then we might bring in another one. So, but for now, Express, .env, and nodemon are the three ones we'll be using until it's time to build the database, then we can bring in another one. So here, the app is correct, everything is correct here. .env, you're using it here. Well, it's only fine. Package.json, that's where you had the error. So that being said, Lawrence, I'm really sorry. I apologize for the network issues you're getting, but I hope get resolved. So questions? Do you have questions? Okay. So that being said, we can continue. Now, when you've installed your package.json, your packages, which is these two, I want to set up for dev and I need nodemon. Now, I need to install nodemon, but as a dev dependency. I want to believe that everybody in this class knows why I am using yarn. You are not supposed, you can use yarn if you install yarn in your system to your own computer. You can use yarn if you install yarn to your own computer, but you only have Node, so use npm install whatever you want to install, which is node1, for example, like this. I want to believe you understand this part. So if you see me write yarn, you know that it's only for those persons that have installed yarn in their system that should type yarn. If you did not install yarn, you should be typing npm i-d then nodemon. But for me, I'll be using yarn add-d nodemon. Notice that I did not install this nodemon while I was installing other packages, because nodemon is a different type of dependency. I hope they are listening. So I'll hit enter, and it has installed. Now let's say you mistakenly installed something that you don't want to use, something you don't need. Let me add what file would I install? Yarn add, let me say mongoose. I'll hit enter. So sorry, what did I type? I typed yarn add, oh, I typed 3, oh, sorry. Yarn add mongoose, hit enter. Okay, that should install mongoose for me. So now I have a file here. Let's assume you installed something mistakenly, or you installed something and you discover that you will not use it. You can uninstall it. You can remove it. You can remove it. And I encourage you, you should remove it. So when you install something that you don't want to use, remove it. So to remove it, you type npm uninstall. This is uninstall for short, or you type it in full, uninstall anyone. So uninstall whatever is the file that you installed mistakenly or the one you will not use. Uninstall it. Don't leave it there, please. Some persons made mistake install some files, but they didn't remove it at the end. Remove it. So if you use yarn, then you need to remove it. Yarn remove mongoose and hit enter. And if you look here, mongoose is gone. So you can add and you can remove. You can install and you can uninstall whatever you've installed. So that being said, I can complete my nodemon. We run server.js. If you have any question while I'm doing this, please ask. We may not do this thing again. We may not. Okay, Kenneth, go ahead. Where is he? Kenneth, where are you? Where are you? Yeah, Kenneth, go ahead. Go ahead. What is the challenge? Go
Good
ahead.
evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So my question on the assignment, like, okay, so I did mine, but I noticed something because each of them I was running it to see the output. So when I like for the string, that one run, and let's say for
Sorry,
the
what is your
objects.
sorry, what is your GitHub name? Is it Kenneth CPP?
Yes.
Okay. I want to be seeing your project so that we know what you're talking about. This is your project assignment.
Okay, that would be
Is this your assignment? Kenneth. Now, is this your assignment? Server dependencies.
yeah, yes, yes.
Okay, so what is the challenge?
Okay, on the index app.js.
Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
The challenge there is trying to define the array. Like I type the array, the variable name, then define it and call it. But when I call it, it says cannot get. That was the output. But if I remove the name of the variable and maybe use this double slash, it gives me the output of the array. So then I was thinking if maybe it should have been declared somewhere else and invoke it on that place first. But like the array on, I declared the array object, then call it, and that one worked. But the name, putting the name on the like after the get to put the name and maybe give it a name, then declare the function and call it, do the callback function. It will give me output that says cannot get. So I'm a little confused. So if you watch my assignment, I did not give names to it. I only used those slash and forward slash, and everything was working. But I needed to know what was wrong with that, why it was telling me cannot get when I
Number
give them
one,
a name.
these are wrong. All of them are actually wrong. You must put
Okay.
something here. Now, the codes, for those who are following, I want to make it bigger. I want to believe that you are seeing my screen. Every other person is not just for Kenneth. So Kenneth, you can mute now while I explain. Okay, so here, everything here is actually wrong. not that the code is ever wrong. In the endpoint, they are wrong. The first thing is this one is empty. So because it's empty, it will always tell you cannot get, because your code reads from top to bottom. So when you make a request, it will try to check whether this endpoint matches. Now, this is like an advanced class. I will explain it later. But because it concerns your project, that's why I'm explaining it now. If you have so many endpoints here, and the user makes a request, the backend will not automatically go straight to that first endpoint. No, it will not go straight to that endpoint. Let's assume here we have .get something here, like get A, this is get B, get C, and get D. And then the user makes a request that should come here. The backend will not automatically come to this one. No. Because all of them have /, because they all have /, it will match all of them one against the other. So it will take the request that the user is making and check whether this one matches it. If it doesn't match, it will skip and move to this one, check whether this one matches it. If it doesn't match, it will skip and check whether this one matches, and then check whether this one matches. So if any of these matches what the user is actually checking, then it will send that one. But at this point, it's not checking, it's not finding anything here. So you will always see cannot get. It won't get down to these ones because it's trying to match what this one is. It doesn't know what it is. That's the first error. The second error is here. You have these two things using the same endpoint. So by default, this is going to always be matched, even though the user is making to this one. They are both the same endpoint. So this one will always be matched. Anytime the user put /, it will always be matched. This one can never be called. This one will never get called because it starts from the first one and matches it to the last one. So if you are making a request to this type of endpoint, this is the one that will get matched. This one will not come out. So that's the two things that will stop you. This one will tell you cannot get because it's not seeing anything at the endpoint here. Then this one will always get matched instead of this one. That's another challenge. Then here, I don't know why you're doing this one. This one is like there is something my lecturer used to say that something is chemically suicidal. This is programmatically suicidal. You want to commit suicide, don't do this, please. You need to put names of endpoints. Put the name of your endpoint. Okay, that's one. Joseph said your server URL must match with your app.get variable. Yeah, exactly. So this endpoint here and this one are the same. So this one will always get matched. But because this one doesn't have anything inside it, it will not even allow these ones to be matched. It will stop here and tell you cannot get. So that's the error. That's one error. And I think this is responsible for telling you not get. And then these two things being the same will always fetch this one. And it is now this one may not allow the main thing run because this is programmatically suicidal. Yes, Lawal, go ahead. Where is Lawal? Lawal, go ahead. Please talk to us. No, use the mic. Use the mic. We can, or you don't want to. Yes, this should be the only one that will have this type of URL. This is the home URL. So this means whether you add it, whether you don't add it, that should be it. But having the two of them use the same endpoint will return this one. Now this one is chemically suicidal or programmatically suicidal. You will get error, it won't reach here. This will tell you this also throw error. Now, not having anything here may not throw error, but we also tell you cannot get at certain times, depending on what you are using, the browser you are using. It will throw some error. If you are using an upgraded browser, it will throw errors. So that's all. I think, Kenneth, you should actually, the mistake you're making is only that you do not define your endpoint. If you define your endpoint, your codes are correct. So just define the endpoint. Every other thing is correct. Now this thing here will run. As you put it here, it will run. But sending them, why are you not using JSON? I'll talk about that later. But I think the only problem, the main challenge here is the endpoints not being defined. That's the main challenge. And I had to define the endpoint for you and the assignment, so that for those who are not following. But that's by the way. All right. I think that one is settled. Let me see that I'm actually recording for those who are not in class. So we're back to this place. I want to take my time and set up this server, because this is the server we'll be working with going forward. Now, everybody have submitted the assignment. Some persons got it, some persons did not get it, but at least somebody submitted something. I don't know about, what is his name? Yanusa, Abi? Yeah, Yunusa Anas. I don't know if he's in class. Yunusa Anas. This is the second time I'm not seeing, I'm getting 404 with your GitHub link. The GitHub link is saying not found. This is the second time. Anas, if you're online, please drop a comment. If you're online, Anas, please drop a comment. That was one issue we have. So, yes, Samuel, you can ask your question. Where I want to make sure that everybody is following how to set up a server. We may not get that opportunity again. Yes, please, Samuel, go ahead. Samuel, please go ahead. Is he here? Unmute
okay.
yourself. Unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Okay, yes. I said I have a series of questions. I was trying to find out the dev dependencies. Is it that those other files, will they affect the dependencies of, will it affect those files from running in the container or wherever it is being hosted, based on the fact that they are not development dependencies? That's number one.
Okay.
Then number two, I was trying to find out. Yes, then you said that there must be a kind of a default or the endpoint when you were responding to Kenneth's question, that there must be a route path. So I was thinking, yes. So I was thinking, supposing is the home route, you just slash. Is that okay like that? That automatically it will hit the home route.
Yes.
So then finally the last question is, I thought the code is or those functions are asynchronous, such a way that it does not run. It must not go from the first one, will not hinder the other one.
Okay. Thank you. You can mute now. You can. I wish I had. Yeah, you can mute. I wish I had something to explain with. Now, the first question is about dependencies. Let's say we deploy this project to AWS. Now, what AWS will do is AWS will build this project the first time. So it will build the project, and as it's building it, the last thing in the build, we call this name. Now, you need to specify that you're using Node. So if you are using Node, NPM, AWS knows that there must be a start script if you are using Node. Now, I don't know about Python and other programming languages, but for Node, it knows that there has to be a start script. So while it's building your project, at the end of the build, it will call npm start. npm start will then use Node to run the main file, your main file, which is for here is server.js. Now, your main file will start your server. Now, your server is supposed to start normally. Now, but because your server, as your server is about to start, it will look at the dependencies you have here, dependencies. If it doesn't see anything inside dependencies, it will not run. The server will not run anything that is under dev dependencies, even if you specify where should I even if here I think there's a way you can actually specify it for it to use dev dependency, but it will not. So whatever that is inside these dev dependencies only runs during development. When it comes to production, it will be looking for dependencies, not global dependencies, not dev dependencies. It just has to be normal dependencies. That's the only thing that will run. So you don't have normal dependencies, it will not run. It will just tell you what's that error name again. There's an error message it will throw for you, and that's the end. It will not run. So it will just crash there. Some person delete these dev dependencies. Some person delete it because it's not needed there. It's not needed on the cloud. That's one. Number two, now this is the home route like this. And it's only used once. You don't use it twice. It's only used once. The next question is, I thought one is not supposed to affect the other. Yes, one is not supposed to affect the other. But because the codes read from top to bottom, if there is an error, an obvious error, especially in the route, it will affect the other one. Now, if the error is inside the endpoint, I wish I have declared my code. Let me just go ahead. Const express is equal to require. Now, if I do anything you don't understand, please stop me and ask question. I've given you a tip of what you should expect. You should know that by the end of the class, you should be able to build and handle your own backend. I may be there to help you. I may not be there. Like today, I had a meeting with one of student. She wants to build a website, and we had a meeting. She wants me to be part of it. Now, I may be there for you. I may not be there for you. So there are possibilities. So you should know how to do it on your own, whether I'm there or not. Now, even if I'm there, I will not do it. I will not do everything. I'll just do one small thing and leave the rest for you. So .env. So make sure to know everything I'm doing. .env.config. Now, for those who are having network issue, I really apologize. I want to take my time to set up this thing, so I don't want to rush it. I have this, and then the next one is app.listen, and I want to set up my port here, so I'll say const port is equal to, I don't have a process.env yet, but let me just add it, process.env port. For now, I have not created it, but I can still add it, and then use port 8000 app.listen. Listen at port, no. Listen at port. Now, when you start listening, run an arrow function. Oh no, what am I typing? Say console log for me. Server running on then dollar curly braces port like this. So I have my server set up like this. By now, everybody should know how to set. Now, even if you can't set it up, there's a documentation to get the server set it up. The next thing is we want to handle get request app.get like this, and if that runs, I want to run an arrow function, and the function to take the requests and also take the response. Like I said before, You can abbreviate them, make them short like this if you want. You can also type them out in full. This is request. We're going to look at them properly later. Response. Then here I can just do res.send and send any string like this. So let's assume I have this here. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now all of these routes are the same. So these ones will not get matched. What it does, it matches the first one that looks exactly like what the user typed it or what the front-end developer is calling. So this is the first one that looks like it. So this one will always get matched. Whether this function is defined as async or not, because these 3 matches, this first one matches it, that's the one that will be sent back. Now, as a backend developer, most times we usually have another one that we create just in case the what the front-end developer is calling is not what we have. App.use.
That's the middleware, right?
Yes. Now this middleware is going to handle for a case where the user enters something that does not match. So if there is no, sorry, I'm trying to type. I don't have response here, no wonder. So take the response, take request and response rather, and then send the response of JSON, and it should have a message that says this endpoint does not exist. So what this means is that if you are trying to make a request to our server with a particular endpoint, it will start from the top here and match them against all of them. If none of them matches, automatically this one should match. Because you see, we did not define any endpoint here. It will run this, and this is always the last endpoint because this will always match at any time. So it will try to match the first one. If it doesn't match, it will move to the second one, it will move to the third one, it will move to the fourth one. If none of them match, by default, this will run, telling you that the endpoint you are trying to call does not exist yet. So most times I create, although this is like a letter class, but I'm using it now to explain why, whether it is async or is not async, it starts matching them one by one first. The first one that matches will be the one to be returned. Now, if none of them matches, automatically it will fall to this last one. That's one thing about route. So you must define your route. Now, if you add here E, add A, add what is it called again? C. Now they are different. So this is the first one. This is like the home route for the front-end developer to know that they have started communicating with your server. So it is only going to be one. You don't have it two. Then all your main routes, you must define them. Your main route, you must define them. Then the last one, which is this, I normally add it because you might make mistake and add an extra letter or misspell something, and the server will be waiting. Now, I will explain all of this later. The server will keep waiting. You don't know why it is hanging. So you want to know when you are actually making an error. Now, if you mistakenly send the wrong route name, the server is not supposed to be hanging. It should automatically tell you that you typed something wrong, which is this. So just return and tell you the endpoint does not match. So you will come back and look at the endpoint you typed and you will see your error. So that is why I said most times it starts matching from top to the last one. And quote me, this has, I think, I don't know, but I will explain all of this later again. Let's go back to where we started. So that being said, I've succeeded in setting up my server, which is this, and my app is listening, and I have a port, but I've not created this .env I configured. So I need to create a file here and call it .env. And here I am calling a variable port. Here, this is the variable I'm calling. So I have to declare that variable here, port, and set it to be equal to 5,000 and save it. Now my server, I have not started my server, so it hasn't started. I want to confirm that everything is ready. My scripts are ready. My dependencies have installed there, both dev I have. My package.json file is saved. My .env is created and I have it here. So everything is ready for me to run this project. So what I can do is, I don't want to run it here with this terminal. If you have installed Git, Git automatically comes with a brother called Git Bash. So Git Bash is like a terminal you can use. If you are using Windows, just right click and you get Git Bash. Right click and Git Bash here. But for Mac, there's a different way of installing Git. It's not the same way with Windows, and it doesn't come with Git Bash. So for us that use Mac, it doesn't come with Git Bash. Rather, you just use your normal terminal. Any of the terminals you've installed, you use them. So here I can say npm run dev. That should start nodemon, and my server is running on port 5,000. You know what? Let me go back. Control Z. Yeah, I have this. I think is there an error I made before? So I'll save this. I want to try something. Here, somebody was asking what's the difference between the send and the JSON. So I want to explain that. If I come to localhost, I think it's port 5,000. It's running on port 5,000 because I got this port 5,000. 5,000. Now the home page, I can decide to, the home route, I can decide to add / or not add it. Whether I add it, whether I don't add it, they are the same thing. And it's sending me back this thing. Now, for the person who is asking, you see that it is sending it as just letters. But if I change the send to be JSON, save it, and then I refresh again. Now you see it has been changed. Now it is coming with quotes to tell you that this is actually JSON, not the normal send. If I go back and do the send again and refresh, you see it's coming as just normal string, no quotes in it. But if I change it to JSON, it will bring out. Now the developer cannot use it as a normal string. The front-end developer cannot use it as a normal string because it has left one medium and is moving to another medium. That data is moving from one platform to another platform. They are not the same type of platform. The front end is different from the back end. So a string that is defined here can be used here as a string. If you are sending it to another platform, which is the front end, it can be sent there and be used as a string. It should be sent as JSON, and then the person will pass it back to become what they want to use. So data should be sent only as JSON. They should be sent as JSON. Otherwise, the front-end developer may not be able to use them. It will tell them the data, except we'll go deeper into that later, but not now. There's a configuration to allow them, but that's like wasting much time when you can just change this thing to JSON. So let me change all of them to JSON. Some persons use send, no problem, but most importantly, you should know why it has to be JSON and what you mean when you're using send. If I type /L and hit enter, now it says this endpoint does not exist because it tried to match and none of them matched. Automatically, this one will match. So if I go ahead and type something like /users, I do say return this endpoint does not exist. But if I leave all of them as // the first one will always be the one that will return. Every other thing, the first one will always be the one to be returned. And although they are the same thing, but let's and save it. So even if I refresh, the first one will always be the one that will return because this is the same thing matching. So you need to have this only once, and that should be for the message. JSON message that says welcome to our server. Please, I want to believe that this will be the last time. I will start from scratch again. I beg you, ask your question now. Now, some persons, I think they don't want to ask questions because they think the class is very big. We are not big, oh, we are not plenty. We are not. So ask your question. I can attend to everybody. I hope I'm still in class. This one,
Okay,
quiet.
yes, I have a question, please, to ask on that. Though I was waiting for you to complete what you were doing on that env. So yes, I was trying to understand that process.env. Initially, I had an error, but I was able to correct it. Suppose I use another variable in front of that .env, maybe like config.env. So is this the same way? I'll write process.config.env.
Yes. So if the name here is config, that has to be the same name here. The same thing. No difference.
No,
so
I'm talking of the file extension of that. Maybe like I said, config.env. Yes.
It has to be env because env means it's an environment. It has to be env. But I've not had the need to rename it to something else. No. It has to be env. That's the only keyword. It's like a keyword to tell the browser that, let me put config and see.
No, not I'm talking about config.env or any other name .env. Maybe not just something like config env.
Well, you can. Some people do what's it called? Some people use the I'm trying to find the word is yes, you can put something here before the .env, but it doesn't really make sense because the file is not going anywhere. It has to remain with you. So what you name it doesn't really matter because nobody should see it. So that's why most of us leave it as .env. We just following the format, the name of the stuff, but you can leave it however you want.
Okay, yeah. So looking at, so when I want to now write it, then maybe like const port equals to process dot. So how will I be able to?
You still put it the same way because this .env here is you still put it the same way. Process dot the name you called it. .env, and I think did I call this port? Yeah, this is port.
Yeah.
Config, save this. Now let me rename this one to config. I think so. Save it, and let's see that my server crashed because it cannot read property undefined config. Yeah, it can't. But what I'll do is I will cancel the server again. Control-C. Hit enter. No, it's not going through because can't read config. When you use this, I think
you need to edit that config to port, that other one, so that it will rhyme with other ports. Yes.
No, I don't think this is the issue, but let me see. I've not had the need to do it, and it's still crashing. So yeah, it's still crashing because it's undefined. The reason why it's crashing is because at this point, once you say .env, it is looking for .env. It's not looking for Now, whatever you put before it here would not be seen as the file extension name. It will be seen that once it sees .env, it is looking for process.env. So it's just looking for .env. Not really, but I don't know why people do it. Sometimes they do it because they want to disguise the name. I think so, but I see persons do it, but I haven't done it before. I've not had need for it.
Oh, okay.
And the
Okay.
file, what you name the file doesn't really matter because it's not going anywhere. So what you name it doesn't really matter. So
Okay. So it means
that's
generally on the git ignore. So we have to just create a git ignore file. I just realized I didn't do that and put it
yes,
there, right?
yes. Most critic, but for now, the git ignore will not ignore anything because you are not doing the normal git push. We are just doing drag and drop. Now I will teach you the normal git push, but for now this git ignore will not do anything because you can drag everything here and drop it on GitHub. It will go through. So for now, git ignore is not doing much, but I wanted to show you that once you create .env file, you must have git ignore. So
Okay. Okay.
that's okay. Who else? Chinedu, do you want to say something? Um, Christopher, go ahead. What's your question? Christopher, please ask any question you want to ask about setting up this server. I think that's the last part of it. Okay, all right, Chinedu. So Christopher, we are waiting for you. Unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hello, good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. I
Yeah,
have a
good evening.
question in line with the last assignment. So I created a .git ignore file, and I included my post number, which I wouldn't want, and the node modules, which I wouldn't want to be visible or to be sent to Git. So I discovered that after doing that and I pushed my code, it was still displaying. I had to now use the terminal to actually remove the node modules and the env file that was sent to GitHub. So I want to know if it's how I made my setup, because I tried it twice. It was sending the node modules to the GitHub, my GitHub repository.
Okay, what I will do now is, okay, Prince, I will attend to that. So what I will do now is I already have a file here and it has node modules and it also has git ignore. So I will create a git a repository now and then push it the normal way. I'll push it the normal way and see whether it's actually going to push with the git ignore. So, but you understand how to create all these files. I didn't do much setups. I have my node module, so I want to ignore node modules here to node underscore modules. Sorry, you have to spell the names well. These names must match. Node underscore modules dot env and save. So this is saved, this is saved, this is saved. I want to create a file and push. Also, how do I do that? Create new repository, and I'll call this push. Now, okay, there's another one called push already. Let's call it test then. There's text already. Let's call it extract. Yeah. I will delete some of these things later. So this is public, and then create. So I have this now. For you, I'll teach you guys later how to do this. But I just want to check if what Christopher is saying. So I'll open my terminal here. Here's my terminal, clear my terminal. The first thing I want to do is say git init. You're using master branch as initial branch and so on and so forth. So then choosing master cells, git add dot to add everything to git add dot. Then I'll use git commit. Command V, git commit. I've committed now. I don't want to create branches. I'll just skip that one and then link the repo. Command V. Now I'll teach you this thing later. Git repo remote this, hit enter. Then I want to push now, but because I didn't create a branch, I will change this from main to master. And hit enter. And my files has been pushed. So if I refresh here, I have my files, and you see my git ignore. You don't see my index, what's it called, .env, and you also don't see my node modules. So if you add them in git ignore, no matter the number of times you push these files, the names that you added inside here will never be pushed to GitHub. So there should be a reason why. It is either you didn't spell the names matching the files correctly, or there's a mix-up somewhere. You should check that.
I actually just did git push. I didn't indicate the main branch. I think that might be the cause. I just git pushed, but every other thing I followed the steps in terms of ensuring if git is in the project. That's git init and git add dot, then git commit, then the git commit message. Then I just git pushed without imputing the main branch. I think that might be factor.
All right. So you get that. But like I said, for those who may not understand what I just did, you're going to do it later. It's gradually. But let's first understand how to set up this server. So Prince, please talk to us. What do you mean you are trying to access? Where is Prince? Prince, talk to us. What do you mean you're trying to, and it's not? Prince, are you there? Hello, Prince, unmute yourself, then you can go ahead. Okay, while we are waiting for Prince, now we are done with setting up the server, and we can send back. Prince, go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you now.
I downloaded the and I'm trying to open the file like the folder where all my files. And it's saying that it's not on the page. I don't know what.
Okay, when you want to use git bash, you should be doing it on the folder, not on the file. When you want to git bash, you do it on the folder, not on the file. So what I mean is, for me, I don't have, I'm not using Git, but what I mean is, let's say you have this folder, you want to open this folder with Git, you right click on this folder, and somewhere here you will see Git bash here. That's the first step. Now the second way to do it is you open the folder up, and you open the particular folder you want. You are seeing the files. Let me open. You are seeing the files here. You don't do it on the files. You do it on the folder. And I think for Windows, you see spaces in the folder here. I want to actually get that. Yeah. So if I open this folder, I'll see it now. You can do it anywhere outside, not on the files, but anywhere outside, but still inside the same folder. I tried that so that you see whether it's working. So, but that's being said, the next thing we want to talk about is status codes. I want to believe nobody has issues with starting our server. Sorry, Ekong, about the network. Connecting, you can't see chat. Well, sorry, I apologize for that. But sorry. So like I said, I want to talk about status codes and other stuff. Now we can move forward. After setting up the server, the next thing has to be your endpoint. So some persons, when I say send object, they did it well. Some did not do it well, but all of that I understand. Okay, Laura. All right. So I want to talk about status codes. When you are working on the back end, there are different status codes. There's 100, there's 200, there's 300, there's 400 ranges, there are 500 ranges. Now, these hundreds mean that, you know what, let me put them on a different line. So these 100 ranges have their own meaning. 200 has their own meaning. 300 has their own meaning. So as a backend developer, you should understand what status codes mean. Status codes reference. I don't want to type anything from my head so that people don't be cramming it. You should see them on any documentation anywhere. They're all the same thing. So from here, we have status code of 100, and they say they are informational. So you can have 100, you can have 101. Yes, you can have 101 switching protocol, 102, 103. Now, 200 means okay, successes, and you have 300 redirect, 400 the errors, and then 500. Now, you can look up all of these things, but I wanted to show you that they're not coming from my head. Bad request 400, all the bad requests. So, but how do we use status codes? All right. So how do we use status codes? Now, let's assume that the user, the front-end developer, will be accessing this endpoint to see whether they are connected to our server. We can choose to add a status code for them so that they know that indeed they are actually connected. Now, the message may not be enough for them. They need to see status code. Now, some developers work with status code. Some other developers work with messages. So you can be working with a front-end developer who rely on status codes to do something. If the backend tells you that the code is 200, it means that was successful. If the backend tells you that the code is 404, it means it was not found. Now, they are not interested in the message that you return. Some of them are not interested. Now, while others are interested in the message. So you return the message and you also return the status code so that they can verify to them and be certain that this is actually it. For example, there could be a website or let's say an application that once the user makes payment, once they make payment, credit their DSTV. Once they make payment, credit their DSTV. So the front-end developer will make the first request to collect the money, to make payment. That's the first request. Now, when you make that payment, a request is made. They need to be very, very sure that the money has been collected by the back end before they can then give another request that the back end should then credit the user. So as a backend, you also add .status. .status. Inside here, you can add your status code. So before, or maybe I don't know whether I can add it after. Before or after, you can add that, but I normally add it before my message. So you add a status code there. Now, if you add 200, 200 means it is successful. 200, 201, and so on and so forth. Those are like successes. They are different codes. They just mean success, 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 but different type of success. They mean successes, but different type of successes. Like the first one, which is 200, is the normal okay. It means everything was okay on the back end. Everything was okay. Now 201 means the request is complete. It went well and a new resource has been created. Now, it's not compulsory to use all of them, but you should know which one to use and what you want to use. 202, accepted. Then 203, non-authoritative information, and so on and so forth. So, but my own is to show you how to add status code and why you should add status code. Some persons do not rely on the message. So if you are returning here like successful, which I do most times, successful, most front-end developers want to check when the status code is 200 and the message says successful. Two of them at the same time. Some people do it. Some people use only the status code to check if it's successful. Some people use only the message to check if it is successful. So, but as a backend developer, you should be sending the two of them so that if there is any conflict, they know. Now, if this message is successful, you should be sending 200. But if it is not found, you should be sending, now if it's a bad request, you send 400. 400 means a bad request. Now, if the message, what they're looking for is not found, you can say this, product not found. 404 means not found. Like I was trying to explain to Anas, Anas, if you're still online, please drop a message. So 404 means what you're looking for, we don't have it on our back end. If it's a product, if it's a user, if it's an image, anything you are looking for, we don't have it on our back end. That's what 404 means. But when it comes to 500 and above are errors within the server. So sometimes you can specify, if my server crashed at this point, please send status code 500, so that when the front end user sees 500, they will know that the problem is not from their own end, but the problem is from the server, which is the back end rather. So that's like status code. So I want to believe you understand status code. Any question on status codes? Please ask question on status codes. Now, I will leave the remaining part of the status code. You can look at it. It's not compulsory that you know all of them, but look at it and understand them like that. Any question?
Yes, I have a question, please, on the status code.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
on the status code, you mentioned something that will there be a condition that we need to state that if it's not found, this is what you should do, or Express already does that for us? Oh.
No. You will be the one to specify. For example, let's say here now, I want to use status code of 401. And here again, I want to use the status code of 400, 404. And here again, I want to use the status code of 200 to tell you successful. So what we're going to do is that, let's say this person wants to fund their wallet. I see I'm not doing that assignment because it entered my head. This person wants to fund their wallet. And like I said, before you fund, no, let me not use that one. That's an assignment. That's going to be a project. Let me look for something else. This person wants to make a post on Facebook. You want to upload post on Facebook or maybe on a blog, anywhere. Now, for you to upload that post, you must be logged in. So here now, you want to check if the user has a token. And I did not teach, did I teach you negation? I think I did, negation. Yeah, but if I didn't, so this means if there is a user, and if I put exclamation mark, it means if not user. So you can be checking whether if not user, you can't hear me. Are you serious? Please let me know if you can hear me now. I think I'm online.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Peace network.
Deborah,
Before it was lagging
Deborah,
before.
all right, sorry. Deborah, there is nothing to worry about. It is just exclamation mark. Exclamation mark means the opposite. That's what it means. Exclamation mark means opposite. So without exclamation mark here, I am checking if there is a user. When I put exclamation mark, it then means if there is no user. That's what exclamation mark means. So if I say A is equal to 4, this is A equal to 4. If I remove this one and put negation, it means the opposite. A is not equal to 4. So exclamation means the opposite. So here I can say A is the same thing as 4, or I can do something like this. This is equal to 4, and I can make exclamation mark. This is not equal to 4. Now you don't need to worry about it. It's nothing much. Yeah? Yes, there are some status codes that are meant for specific responses. Specific. You can't use them randomly. Specific. So now here we are checking if not user. Now the reason why I am using if not user is to check whether the person is logged in. When it has to do with the person not logged in, the status code is 401. So here your message can be different things. It can be please log in now. Please log in now if you want to. Some persons can say invalid authorization. Some persons can say user not authorized. You understand? You are just checking that the person, that means that the person is not logged in. So you are putting messages that relate to the person not gaining access. Or some persons can say access denied. Here you can say access denied. So once it has to do with not logged in, then it means access not denied. So there are some cases where the user has to be sending their email. They must send their email. If these things we are going to use it, I will explain them later, but I just want to explain status codes. So don't feel too much. I'm going to explain all of these things later. I'm just using them to explain status code. So sometimes you need the user to send a particular data. If they don't send that data, that's a bad request because they did not follow your instruction. Your instruction is that they should send you something. So when they don't send you, that's a bad request. Now, any type of bad request, you then please add whether it's your email, please add your phone number, please enter email is required. So when they don't follow your instruction, that's a bad request. So that's 400. If you put an instruction for them, send me your email, send me this, and they don't follow it, that's a bad request. It's 400. Now, if they are looking for something, like they want to view a product, they want to view a user, they want to view something, then this is 404, not found. So you can put the user not found, the product not found, the whatever it is. Most times, for you to log in a user, yes, 400 is client error. They did not follow your instruction. That's the client error. Now 500 is your server. Your server did not respond very well. So 500 is server errors. So most times you want to, for you to allow a user to log into an app, you want to check whether that user's detail is on the database. If that detail is not on your database, then you should be sending them 404. They are not in your database. If they want to view a product, but that product is not on your database, you should be sending them 404. 404. So the last one, now if, for example, you are trying to do something, if there's a server error, you had a server error, then you should be sending 500. And then the message can be anything that relates to the server, and you say server error. So that once the front-end developer sees it, they know that something is wrong. So like this now, I will make a get request to /post and see which of them will come out. So that should be here /post. Sorry. /post. And it says, sorry, I don't think my server is running. My server crashed because of user not found. Sorry, I'm trying to use these variables, but so what I'll do is I will just say let user. I just define them as undefined. Let email. Let which one again? This is let email. Let me say let phone number here. Phone. I'm just defining them as undefined so that my server doesn't crash. Let phone number. Next one is server error. Sorry. Let server error. So I'll save it again. See that my server has started running. If I refresh, I then have access denied as the message. Now for here, you will not see the status codes, but just tell me that you understand this one so that we can move to the next. And I want to beg you, anything I do, you don't understand or you can't do it, please don't allow me move forward though, because like I said, it will be better that I take my time to explain it than tomorrow I come back again to explain it. It will look somehow. My server has crashed because of the request. Exactly. Now, this server is crashed, and there's a reason why it is crashed. And I think I did explain this one when I was trying to explain JavaScript. Now, a lot of us are going to experience this error. So many persons will experience this error. You know what? Let me explain it now. I think this is the perfect time. Here, I'm saying if there is no user, send this response. If there is no email, send this response. If there is no this one, send this response. If there is no this one, send this response. So this error here is because it is trying to send response so many times. That's why. So now it says cannot set headers. The error here says cannot set headers after they are sent to the client. So this first one has already sent, I will explain what headers are later. This first one has already sent a response. Now this one is also sending another response. This one is also sending another response. This one is also sending another response. So who knows why it is doing this? Why is it trying to send response so many times, and what can we do to stop it from sending response so many times? I've already explained this before. Who knows why? Who knows why? Why is it sending response so many times? And what can we do to stop it from sending responses so many times? I have explained this before, although not in the backend class, but it's still the same thing. We use return. Exactly. You need to use return to tell you that that should be the last line. It shouldn't go further than that. That has to be the last line. It should return. Run this one and return. Don't do the next one. Just stop there. Don't do the next one. So it's trying to run everything, but we don't want it to run everything. So stop there. I think my server has started again. If I refresh this, see now my server is not crashing. It's not trying to send requests so many times. So that being said, if you understand status codes and how to set status code. Now notice that, like I said, this is authorization. The user is not logged in. This is a bad request from the user. The user didn't follow your instructions. This is 404, not found. What the user is looking for is not there. Now, the last part is the part where everything was successful. Whenever everything is successful, you should be sending 200. When everything is successful, that's the last part, 200. So, any question? And now there are so many others you might want to use, but these are like the most common that we use. And I use this one. There's no backend you will build without these particular ones I've typed here. No backend. All of them, any backend you build, you must use this particular status code. There are other ones you might use depending on the endpoint you are building, but these ones are like almost compulsory. So do you understand how to use these things so that we can move on to something else?
I discovered you did not use if else. So what is it? Are there differences, kind of?
Now, if else means if this one doesn't run, then do the next one automatically. Now, you can use if else if you want, but me, I like separating them like this. This is independent of this one. This is independent. So they're all independent. That's how. But most times you will not. If you use if else, it means if the first one doesn't run, the second one should go ahead. So it's just between two. Except you put so many if else, which is actually not professional. So many if else, which is actually not professional. But any which way you do it, anyway is a way. Just get it done. That's the most important thing. Anyway is a way. So if there is no question on
Okay, yeah,
status
I have one more. Sorry.
okay.
If for the return, if the return, for example, if you use a switch, will you just stop at the first statement, or because what I understand about the return is that that's the last statement to
Yeah.
return before.
Now, this condition here says when there is no user. So if the user is not logged in, line 32 become the last thing to run. These other ones will not go ahead and run. That's what the return does. It will stop here and send you this message. But if there is a user, let's say now we are checking if there is a user. Let's see what will actually show up in the web browser. So if I refresh this, I have please add email. So it is now skipping this one and going to this one because this condition here is not met. So it will skip this condition. So if I still do it this way, if not, and then come here and set my user to be something like this. This is my user. Now I have a value for users. And then here I'm checking if user doesn't have a value. Now I have a value. I'm checking if it doesn't have a value. So it means that it will skip this one and move to this one, which is the email part. And that's where it will stop because we are saying if email doesn't have a value. So here email doesn't have a value. If I put email to have a value and save it. Now, if I refresh this, you see it has skipped the email and it has gone to not found. Not found because we are saying if phone number doesn't have a value. Now I can add a value to phone number and save it. So then if I refresh, I will then see server error. So that's what the return does. If this condition is the case, it will stop here. But if that's not the case, it will skip that one and move to the next line. Now, if that condition is the case, it will stop there. But if it's not, it will skip that one and move to the next one, like that. So here you are saying if the user is logged in. If the user is actually logged in, it will skip this one. But if the user is not logged in, every other thing will not run. It will just stop here. That's what the return does. So do we understand that, or do we still have a question? So any more question so that we can move on to the next thing? So what I will do is I will go from top of this code to the bottom. Yes, Actually, what we are doing is today's work. We are doing today's work. I understand that some persons are pro, but just how many persons are actually pro? I think it's 2 or 3 out of the whole class. I think it's just 2 or 3 persons. Some persons are learning for the first time. So the most important part is now you don't say that part is not compulsory. No, not with the word compulsory, but necessarily at any line where you need to check conditions, or any line that you want to be the last line under a certain condition. So not really, the word compulsory doesn't really describe what I want to explain. So here now, the last line here now, this one has no condition, and I want it to be the last line, so I'm using the return keyword. But at the same time, I am returning a response too. So the return keyword does 2 things. It returns something, and it also tells you the last line that will run. So most times we use the return to return something, to return a value, or you use it to tell which one should be the last line. So here it is returning a message, but also it's also saying this should be the last line to run, like that. So that being said, let's go proper into what we have. Or maybe we're doing what we have. Like I said, this is going to be the server I'll be building on. You see that setting up the server from scratch takes time, which is why I had to wait for those persons who submitted the assignment and didn't get it very well. But obviously they are not here. No problem. Let's move on to something else. Now I asked you to install Postman. Now this is time to use Postman. Why do we need Postman? I will explain. But I have opened my own Postman like this. Now this is because I have so many projects, so don't look at my own project. It's going to be, I don't want to edit now, so blank project. Next, give it a name as what's it called, youth drive, and that should be for only me. You drive, create it. So now for you, you will just see an empty space. For me, I already have stuff. That's why I have this. So blank collection, you try. So I want to show you how to use Postman, because we need to dive a little deeper into backend. So I have my Postman, and I want to use this endpoint called tests. Let me call it test. So I want to explain what is request and what is a response. We have been we add response, request. What is request and what is a response? So if I want to console log the request here, so anytime I hit this endpoint, which is the test endpoint, I want to console log what the request is. So on my browser here, I'll make a request to get, and it is test. Then hit enter. If I open it up, if I open my console, now you're going to see so many things console there. This is not error. This is the request object. Now it is telling you that this request is a bunch of so many things. Yes, who's it? Lawal, you want to say something, Lawal? No, I don't think so. All right, so here I'm console logging the request. You see so many things inside the request. Now, I may not explain all of these things, but let me just explain the ones that are most important. Now, the first one is request the body. The second one is the head. You know what? The head of the request, which we call the header. So if I save this and make this request again, did my server crash? Now I am getting the header and I'm getting undefined in the body. So there's other part of the request, which of course you see here, there is accept, there's the connection, there is the host. The host here is like the URL of the request. So it's telling me that it's localhost 5000, which, and then the path here is telling me the path, the endpoint, which I'm calling from this request. That is the route here. The route we are calling is this /test. There are other information about this request. There's parameters too. So if I go ahead and add something like /12345CGGGGG, and why is it still loading? My server is still loading because, okay, there's a reason why my server is still loading. That's because I'm not returning anything. So you see, all like these ones, you are returning a response. So when you are not returning anything, the server will keep hanging. But we'll get into that. So my server will keep hanging if I'm not returning anything. Now I'm returning something, is not hanging. So there is request body, there's request header, there's request params. There are so many parts of a request. So the request, now if I add something here, and there's a route, let me say, I think so. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and refresh. So the body is empty, the header, there's nothing in the header, and I'm getting the route. And where's the params? Then the params here stays for now, that is undefined. And then the part here is undefined. So these are like, we use different parts of this request. How do I explain this to somebody who's just seeing it for the first time? There are some parts of the request that you put some informations. For example, if you ask the user to send you something, you should be sending that thing as part of the request body. Now that's the job of the front-end developer, not your job. So, but it's good for you to know which part of this request will this data be coming from. So if you're expecting the front end to send you user details like their email, a phone number, or the form details, or the post details, or the comments details, those kind of information comes here in the request body. But if you're expecting them to tell you, to send you tokens about the user token, now you're going to learn about tokens later, or send you authentications about the user, or send you hash codes, all those secret informations, not really secret information, but private informations, they will be coming in the headers. I think, is it headers or header? Why is it showing me? Yeah, it's header actually. Request header, not headers. So now then, when you want to get a specific data or some parameters about that request. Parameters, I mean, like you want to see the list of 5 users. The parameter there is 5. You're sending 5 users. You want to get, you want to filter users based on their location. The parameters you're sending are locations. You want to get those who their scores are above 500. Parameters there are like the score, so which is above 500. So they can send you parameters which they want to use. Now, this does not mean that they cannot interchange the places. Some front-end developer can send you everything in the body. Some can send you some things in the header, some things in the params. So like, but I'm just telling you that there are different parts of a request. The request has different parts. The same way that the response also has different parts. The response has different parts too. I just hope that I have not lost you. Where is my... I just hope I have not lost you guys. You're still following me. Okay, no, okay, I believe you're still following. So like I was explaining, the response also has its own part. If I refresh, if I run this request, I should see the response console log. Where is it? This is test console log, the response. Okay, the response is when you are sending something. You are not getting the response. So, but I want to see why my server did not refresh. My server did not restart. Why? I'll cancel with Control C. Restart again. And then run this. Yes. So the response also has so many parts of it, the same way that the request has so many parts of it. But I don't want to bore you with all of that. In the request, you will see cookies. Now, cookies is where you store some small information about the user. The backend person is the person that stores those informations. What else will you find on the request? The response, the status is there, which we have used. We have used the status. Yeah, the response has status. It has JSON. It has so many things on it. So you can send so many things as part of the response. And I know that this is plenty. Like I said, you don't need to cram all of this. You will be using them. The ones I use or the ones I show you, then you know that those ones are important. And then you pay attention to those ones. When you start working or you have a job, there are other things you need to learn. You look into them too. But I'll show you everything you need to know. Any question? If you don't have a question, drop a thumbs up. Let me know whether we should move on. But if you have a question, ask your question now. If you don't have a question, drop a thumbs up so that I know we can move on. That is if I have not lost you guys. But if you have a question, drop a question now. Okay. Mine is not breaking. I don't know why, but mine is actually not breaking. Anybody dropping thumbs up so that I know that we should continue, or you have a question? Questions or thumbs
Hello, sir,
up?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
So in line with the postman, I understand that we need to create an environment, but the request and response is what I'm a bit confused about. How, because I was seeing various response from what is being displayed on the postman, but I don't know how we are actually requesting and also the particular response that gets sent to the user on request.
Okay. What I showed you is just to tell you that this is an object, this is an object. And the moment you call this object, these are like predefined objects. They have been defined, put together for use. So you can use different parts of them. For example, the request. Now, when I was trying to console log the request.body here, it was coming out as undefined. Sorry, where is that? I can't find it. Yes, here. So the request body is coming as undefined. The reason why it's coming as undefined is because we are not using it. Nobody's using it. The headers here is
So your screen is frozen. I don't know if I'm the one, but I'm not seeing your screen. I'm just seeing the chat.
okay. Let me stop sharing and share again. Share again. All right, I think it should be better now. But if anyone is having that same challenge, I'm also lost for my after listening to the video again. It's breaking there. Sorry. All right. So the request and the response, you don't need to bother about it. I had to bring it in to show you that the request has different parts of it. Okay, can you see my screen now? Samuel, please let me know if you can see my screen now. But for the request and the response, I had to bring them in to show you that there are different parts of them. There are so many parts of them put together already for you to use them. But it may not be all of them you will use. For example, I said if you are sending data to the front end, it should be coming as JSON. Now, that request now that you are sending back, or the response you are sending back, here it should be, you are sending it back as JSON. If the front end is sending something to you in form of JSON, the place you see it is usually in the body of the request. The request has different part of it. It has the head, it has the body. The same way HTML has head and body, request also has head and body. Now, in HTML, the head is instructions, while the body contains your main code. In request, the head contains some authentications, authorization, some codes, some hash codes, and all of that for the head. And the body contains the normal information that the user wants to send to backend. You don't need to bother about it. Now, even if you don't understand it, I get it's your first time seeing it. When you start using it, then you will know why it is there and how we're seeing it. So I think I should start explaining with the requests. Let me use the request to start explaining them part by part. So that's gone. I will remove all these parts. Now, okay. So let's say I open my Postman here. And let me know if this font size is okay. This is Postman. For people who have not used Postman before, when you see it, don't be afraid of it. It's not difficult to use. The Postman is not difficult to use, so don't be afraid of it. Now, it's actually easy. Here you have all the requests you saved. If you don't save any requests, fine, that's up to you. The most important thing is here, this plus sign. Now, let me explain what the Postman is. Here we are making requests with our browser. Now, this is only possible because we are making a GET request. If we want to make a POST request, we can't do that with our browser. A POST request to test, I can't do that with my browser. It's telling me this endpoint does not exist. So the browser does not handle POST requests. It handles only GET requests. So that is where Postman comes in. Now, if I click this plus sign, I'll have all of this. Now I can make any request. The most important part here is this plus sign to add where you want to make a new request. So here I have all the type of requests I want to make here. And here I have the URL of the request I'm sending to, where I'm sending the request. And then here, this is the send. The information that is returned will be here, and so on and so forth. So this part is a little complicated, and I hope you follow me when I explain again. Let me explain again. The most important part, I'll delete that, is this plus sign. You want to start a request. Every other thing here is important, but for now you don't need them. Every other thing here is important, but for now you don't need them. The most important thing here is this plus sign. You click on the plus sign to initiate a request. You want to make a request. So here you choose the type of request you want to make. It can be GET, it can be POST, it can be PATH, and I know I've explained this type of request to you before. So you choose the type of request you want to make. Here you enter the URL to where you are making that request. Here you enter the URL where you're making the request, and then this plus sign is this send. This is where you send the request. You click send. For example, let me make a request. I'll come here. I want to make a request to test. This is test. I want to make a request to test, but my URL is this URL. So what I'll do is I'll come here. I'll type localhost. Now, this is HTTP because it's on localhost. HTTP, I didn't actually paste it. I copied it from the browser, so I can delete it. It's not compulsory. Then localhost 5000 test. If I send, I'll get a response that says this endpoint does not exist. That's the response. So this is how to send and receive a request. The reason why we are doing this, the reason why we are using Postman is because we cannot create a front end right now to use and test our APIs. If we want to test a post request, we need to create a form and then handle the form, read the data from the form, and then send the data to the backend. We don't have that time yet. So that is why we are using a front end that has already been created, which is this Postman, to test all our endpoints. So here I can also test this post. So instead of patch, I'll change it to post and then send. And then I'm getting HH. I can also test, let's say this, I change this one to a patch request. And then I'll return this is a patch request. This is a patch request and save it. If I come here, I change the request type to patch request, and I think this is it the same endpoint? No, I want to put something here. I'll put, what do I put here? Users. Let me put users here. So I can make request to /users here, and then hit the send button, send, and I get a response. This is a patch request. So this Postman allows us to test all our APIs, all of them. Any kind of API you are building, you can test it with Postman. This is Postman I use. Now, if I open my workplace, these are all the endpoints or all the projects I'm working on currently. That's why they are currently here. If I'm done with them now, I can open one of them, which is let me open what's it called? No, on it. I won't do that. Not yet. I'm tempted to, but not yet. So, do you have any question on Postman? Looking at Postman here, what does this mean? What does that mean? Any question on Postman?
Okay, so it's clearer for me now, but also wanted to ask for the patch request. I know normally a patch request is one of the CRUD function. That's the create, request, date, and delete. So can we actually make a change on this now and it reflects back in our code on the local host, or except it's being hosted, then probably you can actually do that?
We can do it here. We're getting to that point. I'm just using this to test and explain to you. We are going to use Postman to do major projects. We may not build a front end. We may not. I may liaise with the front end instructor so that we have backend guys build backend for front end applications. That way, I may not. But all you will do, whatever you will do, you can use Postman to test it without having to connect to any website like that. So, but we're going to get to that point. So any other question on Postman? Are you actually there? Class rep, I've not heard her voice. Where is she? Class rep, any question, any comment, any observation? Where is she? She's not on the call. Class rep, are you there? She's not on the call. So that being said, I want to believe that there's no question on Postman. Now let's just test out Postman with a few requests. So here, my first endpoint is a GET request. Second one is a POST request. Third one is a patch request. Fourth one will be a PUT request. And then I will create a delete request. So I want to create all the type of requests, delete requests, and save that. So I'm sending a response for this POST request. I need to add a status code, status. Now add 200 that is successful. Now, instead of this, I will add a message that will say successful. Let's just say POST request successful. POST request successful. And here I will do the same thing for this one. Here on the user, I want to add the status code 200, and I want to change this to patch request successful. I will do the same thing. This is a PUT request. I will do it. What do I call this one now? Class. Let me just use class. And I'll do the same thing here. Status code 200, and then a PUT request successful. Then here I'll call this what word do I want to use? What word? Let me call it student, and I'll change this here. Status code 200 and a delete request successful. So these are different types of requests. For now, they are nothing big. They're just sending back responses. This is a GET request, which is going to send any of this information, and so on and so forth. So if I save this, I can actually make requests to any of these endpoints. Let's start with a delete request, and that should be /student. So here I will change this to delete and change the endpoint here to student, and then send my request, and I get a message delete request successful. Now I can do the same thing for users, which is now I've done users. Let's do test, which is a POST request. I can change this to a POST request, and I change these students to test and send. POST request successful. So any question so far? Any question so far? We have succeeded in creating our server. We have succeeded in creating smaller endpoints for different type of requests, and we are sending responses to and fro via using our Postman. Any question so far? Any question?
Okay, yes, I have a question, please.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, though my network was due to I changed location, but let me ask the current question. That will be the question that has been on my mind for a while about those methods. For example, post. At this, I know for now we are just looking at the feedback we are getting, but
Yes.
so if, for example, post is something like, from what I studied, is like we are trying to create something into something.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it means it will be an existing URL, which an endpoint or something like that, right?
Yes, we have an endpoint. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I was trying to what we have created were we able to see what was created? We only saw from what I saw was just what we did was just the
Okay.
response. So I was trying to have that picture. I'm not getting it. Then secondly, the final one was that asynchronous. Well, I have removed it. I saw asynchronous before. Before we were not using asynchronous at all, and that was what I was familiar with.
Yes,
Sir?
async. Yeah,
Yeah,
here is the
yes.
async you're talking about. Yes. So let me
Yeah, yes.
explain.
Yes, sir.
Let me explain, starting with the async. I was using this async to actually demo something before. But when we use asynchronous, is if we know that function will take a while before it's completed. It might be it's going to get data from outside, then you use async. But if it is going to run within our app, within this backend, inside the same function, it's not going outside anywhere, then you don't need async. But if it is going to go outside of this function, if it's going to go outside of this function, from this is the function to the end here, if it's going to go outside of it, then you use async because you don't know how long it will take to complete. It might complete in seconds. It might take longer than that. So because you can't tell exactly when it will be done, you need to put the keyword asynchronous, and that's what is it. And also, if you want it to run on the background, that it doesn't tamper with other ones. So while it is running, it shouldn't stop other ones from running too. That part, you also get to that part. That was one. Now, for the post request. Now, the post request is to create something on the database. It is not done automatically. Here is a post request. And there is nowhere here where we are telling this function to save anything on the database. So it has not created anything yet. You will be the one to explicitly tell this API, take this data from the user and save it on the database, and then send back a response telling the user that your details has been saved successfully. For now, we have not reached the part where we accept the data. We have also not reached the part where we save the data. What we are just doing is creating the endpoint and sending back response. The API, the main functions in the API, we've not reached there, but we will reach there, but we've not reached there. So that's why you will not see anything created by post now. So any other question?
Okay, thank you, sir. So I'm happy at this. I'm following now. So it means for now we've not gotten to that where we are creating
Yes,
anything
yes,
to the data. Okay.
yes, we've
Okay, then
not. So we're just setting
what?
the APIs. Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, when you are referring to the external, are you referring to maybe if you have a third party URL
Yes,
endpoint that we have to?
yes.
Okay.
It can be a third party. It can be another back end. It can be your database. It can be another person's database. So long as it is not within this function, it is going outside, then you need to make it async because you can't tell exactly when it will be completed. Because if it's going outside, the person there might decide to authenticate you before authorizing you. So that will take a while before the response comes back to you. So you can't tell exactly how long it will take to come back. And also the user's network, people are having network issues. So the network too can actually change how long it will take to complete. So there are so many factors that can actually make it to take longer or to run faster, which is not in your hands. And you need to add the word async. So that even if it's taking 1 hour to run, you are definitely sure that your server will not crash, even if so long as the person did not cut it off. If it want to take 1 hour, it should take 1 hour, it will still return like that. So that is that. And ask your questions. Like I said, we are going to be working on this particular application for a while. We may not be setting up a new application from scratch. So we are just setting up the building blocks for the remaining part of our classes. So ask your question on anything you are seeing here, anything you are seeing on this particular file that you don't understand. Ask question. Anything. What do you do before logging a GET request? You don't do anything. For you, you will not do anything. Just open your Postman. Okay, you need to have an account. Just sign up with Google. Yeah, Postman, you need to have an account, because if you look here, you see my account. This is my account. But you can use Postman without an account, but I would not advise you to do so. Have a Postman account so that you can manage all your access. That's all. So the most important thing here is this plus sign. That's the most important thing. Every other thing here doesn't count. This one, I created it. It doesn't matter. They all don't matter. Just this plus sign. That's most important for you now. You click on plus, then it will show you these parts. Then here you can choose the type of request you want. Here you enter your URL, the URL you're making the request to, and then you send. That's all. Nothing much about Postman. So if I want to demo that again, I may be making a GET request to this my endpoint. I'm making a GET request to this endpoint. I'll come here. This is already on GET. I'll change this to localhost, and it's port 5000/post. Then this is the URL I'm making the request to, and I'll hit send. And if I hit send, provided my server has not crashed. If your server crashed, response will not come back. Provided that my server has not crashed, you should see a response. Now this response, now somewhere here you are seeing the status code. The status code says 500. If I change this code from, that's because of here. If I change this 500 to say 300 and save it, and then send this response again, now you see the code has changed to 300 here. Now I can also change it to 100 if I want. Save it and make the request again. And my server is now hanging because of server error. Return 100, send again. Sorry, I think it has something to do with that 100 status code. Let me do 101. Save that and send. Okay, now it is actually doing something else. Yes, so I can change it to whatever I want. Here I can, sometimes some status code actually affect it, like 500 will affect the front end. It will not, I think I'm going far with the status code. So, but let's just, all I want to show is that when you set the status code, it also gets set here, and the message is also here. So once the server, the client sees 500, automatically it knows that it's an internal server error, like this. I'm not the one that set this message. The message I set here, I said server error, but the status code will actually determine how it will work, like I said before. So status code 500, it knows that it's an external server error. If I go ahead and add 300 and save, the message here is server error. But because the status code is 300, it tells you that the message is multiple choices, depending on what you send. Now, if I send here 401 and send the request, you see it says unauthorized. 401 unauthorized. So status code actually sometimes affect the front end without you doing much work, but also it's also important to send a message too. So any question before we call it a day today? Any question before we call it today? So can a developer decide the status code to use? And the response, Now, the status code to use depend on the type of, or depend on what is going on. If it was okay, if the whole thing was okay and moves okay, if everything is okay, I don't know what's going on. If you can hear me, drop a thumbs up. If you can hear me, I think I'm quite short of time. If you can hear me, drop a thumbs up so that if you can hear me, drop a thumbs up. Okay, thank you. So to answer these two questions before we go, okay, I've answered this one. Now, the status code depends on what happened. If everything was okay, it will be very wrong to add a status code of 500 because 500 means there was an error. Now, if there was an error, it will be very wrong to add a status code of 200 because 200 means everything went well. So the status code depends on what happened on the back end. If everything went well, you put a 200. If everything did not go well and there was error, you put a 500. Now, if you are looking for something on a database and you don't find it, it will be very wrong to send 200 because 200 means you found it, but you did not find it. You need to tell them that you did not find it, which is 404. So with that, drop a thumbs up so that we can end today's class on the question and answer. Anas, I was asking you before, your assignment, I did not see them. The two of them on Postman, I did not see them. I didn't see them. All right, see you guys tomorrow. I'm trying to understand what this script dev is not started means. Script dev, it means you're not running the script dev. I don't know what this error means. But tomorrow, remind me about this so that we can attend to it. But I think we've stayed more than our time. It's already past 6 so that people don't complain. For now, we don't have assignment on Postman. Please install Postman. Tomorrow, we'll start using Postman properly. Send me your assignment link. I only posted those ones that I found their names. I just send me your assignment link. Let me be sure that you have the assignment like that. Now for the assignment, well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. So see you guys tomorrow by 5 p.m. All right, bye. Please install Postman. Please install Postman so that you can follow along, or maybe when you see what I'm doing, you recognize what I'm doing. All right, bye.